Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to the PMF IAS foundation course. I am Akshay Vrat Sir and I am going to take the first class on the subject of environment. I think there is some, what I can see that lighting seems to be a little off. Am I clearly visible to all of you? Please respond guys. Am I clearly visible to all of you? Anji has asked a question, or she has asked, IPR is not mentioned in the course structure. No, IPR, I discuss it in the subject of science. Science is where IPR becomes more valid because intellectual property right can be directly related to discoveries, it can be directly related to inventions in the area of science and technology, especially biotechnology, medicine. These are the areas where you can expect, right? So, for in the subject of environment, IPR is not directly related, but for science you can expect IPR. So I'll talk about IPR mostly in the subject of science, not in ecology environment. Okay, so I'm visible and audible to all of you. Perfect. So let us start guys. So today you all are starting your journey for civil services to become a civil servant. And guys, let me tell you, I'll straight away come to the point without, hovering around what all things that a civil servant will do, what all things that you will be able to achieve, all these things. So my objective of, teaching the subject is basically to make you guys qualify the exam. I have only just one straight objective. In fact, the entire institution PMF is having just one straight objective. Whenever we have met, we have always talked about that what is best for the students, what is the most optimized course structure for the students. So the objective is always very clear, that how students can qualify the exam with the minimal effort possible and maximum effort from us and the more consistent effort from students, right? Guys, mind my words, the exam is not very difficult. This year also, when the UPSC prelims happened, a lot of students came out saying that the exam was different from the regular pattern that they followed. It was different. See, those differences, you have to be prepared for it. UPSC does give a syllabus, but they don't give a standard that this is going to be the only trend of questions that they will ask. I hope you all are not naive enough. I hope you guys are mature enough to understand that when UPSC makes the question paper, their point is basically to ask questions from those structured syllabus that they have offered. It is not basically to follow the same trend all the time. So if UPSC asks some new questions this time, it is not like they have asked something out of the syllabus. It is always part and parcel of the syllabus. It is just that when students are not well prepared, when students have not prepared in depth, that is where they face these kind of challenges, and that's how they come up with these opinions that the question paper was different, or UPSC have changed the pattern and everything. You have to be prepared for those changes. You are preparing for a competitive exam. You're not preparing for an exam which is coming on a set syllabus and only one teacher is making the question paper and he is also going to be the evaluator. You are preparing for an exam where there is an entire team working for UPSC. There is an entire team making question papers. For the entire year they have the time of selecting the best questions possible so that they can filter out the most suitable candidates. So mind my words, there is no surprise when it comes to UPSC. Every time is a surprise, or if there is no surprise, you have to build your mind first to that concept and then prepare accordingly. Make sure that you are taking up all uncertainties in count and then you prepare. And guys, let me tell you, the exam is not a tough exam. I have taught for more than 11 years for UPSC. I have been associated for more than 15 years now, and in this entire time, in this entire tenure, whatever I have learnt in my teaching career is that the exam is not tough. What is difficult is the commitment that the students give. See, today is your first class. Many of you may be very motivated to take the first class. Many of you might have already dreamt that you want to become a civil servant. But guys, make sure that whatever commitment you have in your mind right now, whatever craze you have in your mind, whatever enthusiasm that you have right now, that you want to qualify civil services, you have to carry the same motivation, you have to carry the same discipline till your last lecture, till your interview, in fact, till the time the result comes out that you have qualified. That is what is the biggest key. The people who qualify the exam, they are not having some unique abilities of qualifying. They are students among us only. Lot of my friends have qualified. Lot of my students have qualified. The only thing that I see in them that differs, that differentiates between a successful student and an unsuccessful student. Mind my words, guys. Successful, both students could be hardworking. Hardworking sabhi ho sakte hain, but only some of them qualify and some of them do not. So the difference between successful and unsuccessful student is discipline. You have to make sure, guys, sometimes there could be subjects, sometimes there could be topic that you don't want to learn. So if you have come from an area of, let's suppose, if you have studied political science in your school, if you have studied science engineering, and you do not want to attend the science class, you do not want to attend the polity class. But guys, this is where your commitment, this is where your discipline comes. Make sure that you arrive every day. Make sure that you are attending the classes on a daily basis, and whatever plan, homework, whatever plan, whatever strategy the teacher recommends, follow it with full commitment. Guys, this is where the things will start changing, and from the very first day you have to make sure that you are taking up the things with full commitment, with full discipline, and you are able to understand everything possible. Guys, although this is the first class and there is something that I tell students in the very first class only. I tell this in the very first class, and this is something I will not be repeating multiple times because we have limited time. So I take just the first 15-20 minutes, half an hour of time to talk about this part, and then this is never going to come up because I expect you guys to be disciplined, not motivated. Motivation will last only for few initial classes. Discipline will last till the end. Even when you join the services, your discipline will make you grow even in the services also. So guys, the first and last thing that I'm telling you, you can take it as a discipline, you can take it as a request for being disciplined, you can take it as a request for being motivated, or you can also take it as a warning between the students who qualify and you don't qualify. Guys, like I said, the exam is not tough. The exam is easy. What makes it tough is our own weaknesses. We at times lose the commitment, we at times lose on the discipline, we at times get distracted on some unnecessary things, and we lose our chances of qualifying. I'll share one small incident. This was technically a conversation that I had. In fact, I was just the audience in that conversation, and somebody else asked this question, and the speaker was a former civil servant and also happens to be the vice chancellor of my own university, Dr. Najib Jung. If you have heard, he was the vice chancellor of Jamia Millia Islamia. When I was doing my engineering, he was the vice chancellor. So till that time I was not having a very high eagerness of joining the civil services, right? I wanted to study engineering and wanted to study engineering further, right, MTech and such. So we were so there were a lot of students, there were a lot of final year students who were called, right, and they were invited to talk to the vice chancellor. That time he was a newly appointed vice chancellor. So what happened when we were all having this conversation with him, some of the students who wanted to become a civil servant, they asked Mr. Najib Jung. Mr. Najib Jung happens to be a civil servant, I think from 1972-1975 batch, a very senior civil servant. Eventually, he also worked in private organizations after the service and such. So what happened, some students asked him, to Dr. Najib Jung, that sir, how, if we are also preparing for civil services, so how we should be preparing, and can you give us some advice and such. So he asked that when was the last time you saw a movie? When was the last time you went out, you visited your relatives? When was the last time you went on a family function, on a wedding, on some birthday party and such? So the students responded, and they said that somebody said that a month ago I saw a movie. Somebody said that just 15 days ago I visited some of my relatives and such. He did not say no to sports. Sports are important. Having some leisure activity which is for your self benefit, that is important. But Mr. Najib Jung responded with just one statement, that if you guys have been doing these activities in the past 1 or 2 months, then this year your chances of qualifying civil services are 0. You can try for next year, because every time when you go watch a movie may not give you that level of mental dopamine that a sports activity so if you are spending 3 hours and then traveling another 1 hour, 4 hours of time in watching a movie, if you go and play football or any other sport that you like for even half an hour or 1 hour, you will get more dopamine, and that dopamine is going to give you more leisure, more relaxation compared to watching a film of 4 hours. If you go and visit your relatives on a wedding, on a birthday party, which technically is not your birthday party and not your wedding, so in that case you are simply getting distracted, and that entire event may take couple of days out from your preparation, and you will not show the same kind of commitment. So I hope you guys are able to understand what I'm coming at. The exam is not tough. It is the idea of being focused that basically becomes tough for many students. And guys, this is where you have to make a commitment to yourself that now, as you have started preparing for civil services, you will remain committed till the end, right? You have to remain committed till the end. Manu, just wait, I'll be answering all these questions. Now, just one last thing from my side, and now I'm going to start after this. Just one last thing. Guys, UPSC has, you already know that UPSC has given us certain number of attempts. Some of you in the class might be having 6 attempts. Some of you might be given 9 attempts. Some of you might be given unlimited attempts. UPSC has given different attempts to different categories of students. Guys, mind my words, write it in your study table, write it in front of you in your study table today itself. Life has given you just one attempt. Life has given you just one attempt. Guys, mind my words. You have to make sure that you qualify in the very first attempt. See, I have given 5 attempts. 5 attempts. I had 6 attempts with me, but I gave 5 attempts, 5 prelims, and I was somehow lucky enough to qualify all the 5 prelims. I gave 5 mains and only 1 interview. It means after giving 5 exams, 5 times appearing for civil services means that I have spent 6 years of my life. And if you consider 1 year of preparation, that means 7 years of my life I gave to 1 exam. You can understand I did not have the motivation to appear for the 6th time. It really happened with me because when I was constantly appearing for 5 attempts, I only qualified the mains in my 2nd attempt. For next 3 consecutive mains, I could not qualify. So that's when I really realized that I've been spending past 7 years of my life in an exam where I'm getting stuck at one point. And guys, mind my words, there are no prices for a good attempt in civil services. In fact, in life also, I would say. The only bottom line is either you qualify or you don't qualify. Doesn't matter how many attempts you gave. Doesn't matter how many years of preparation you have put in. If you have qualified, you are seen as a winner. And mind my words, guys, if you qualify in the very first attempt, there is no better feeling than that. If you qualify before the age of 25 years, let's say, no better feeling than that, because now, see, remember when you are in your 20s, this is the most productive time of your life. You can literally make wonders happen if you are doing anything in the age of 20s. आप सोचिए एक बार, just think about it. If you are spending your entire day learning about India, learning about UPSC syllabus, learning about everything that you're doing, and then you qualify the exam, and then you are working on the field as an IAS officer, as an IPS officer, as an IFS, Indian Foreign Services, or nowadays Forest Services is also there. So all these services, when you're working, just imagine you are giving the most productive time of your life in some task. You can be a real asset to the country, you can be a real asset to your own department. And then just observe how your career progression grows, because you will be an expert in almost everything, because you have given the most productive time of your life in this. But if you spend 6-7 years in pursuing an exam, and even if you qualify after 7 years, of course that's a very good feeling if you qualify in this last attempt also, but your most productive time of your life has been gone in preparation. Of course, you can be a good civil servant after that also, but just imagine you have given your most productive time in this. So I always advise, see, India is a developing economy, and if you guys have reached at this point, that you have searched the internet, you have gone through our demo lectures, and you have reached here at the PMF IAS platform, that means you are already aware, that means you are already smart enough to understand that even if you do not qualify civil services, you will become successful in some other field. Suppose if any one of you comes from engineering and you continue pursuing engineering from this age and keep on becoming a very good engineer in the next 10 years, you are giving your 20s in that time. If any one of you is coming from commerce background and you keep pursuing more commerce studies, do different kinds of avenues, open up, MBAs or whatever the qualifications are popular these days, you continue in that, you will obviously become a very skilled person. So this is where the things matter. The most productive time of your life, that is in your 20s, if you indulge it only in preparation, then you will be expert in preparing, like I am, like we are, like all the teachers. But if you spend this time to qualify and then work as a civil servant, work effectively for the entire age of your 20s age, you will come out as a very seasoned civil IAS officer, very seasoned civil servant. I hope you guys are able to understand. So write it in the front of your study table today itself. Life has given you only one attempt. Write it on your study table. 2026 is going to be my first and last attempt. Guys, although I will be a little lenient, I always tell students that no student should appear for more than 2 attempts. More than 2 attempts, I think you are doing an injustice to yourself, right? So just 2 attempts should be enough to qualify in civil services. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. That should be enough to qualify civil services. If you're qualifying in the first 2 attempts, it is very good. I'm not saying that you should not be appearing for the next attempts, but I always tell students that be very, very realistic. Be very realistic. If you're not able to grow, if you let's suppose if you appear in the first attempt and you do not qualify prelims, but second time when you appear, you reach the mains. That means there is a progression. That means you are growing. And in the second attempt, you do not qualify the mains, but the third time when you appear, you reach interview. That means you are progressing. In that kind of a graph, I will not tell a student not to quit. I will tell a student that you remain committed, because now you are very close. A lot of our students have done that. But when you are not able to break the first hurdle, you are not able to qualify prelims for first 2 attempts, that is where you have to start introspecting where we are doing wrong. Civil servants, the service of civil services, it is the best job that the country can offer. But mind my words, guys, it is a great job, but every great man ever born in India is not a civil servant. You can still achieve greatness. Mind my words. So write it on your study table. 2026 is my first and last attempt. That's it. And now you start preparing, prepare it in a way that you qualify 2026. That should be the clear objective that we all have here. It should be a common objective for all of us here. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. It's already 20 minutes. Let us start. Let us start with our discussion. So guys, you already have received the lecture schedule. What all topics I'm going to cover with you. What all topics I'm going to discuss. You already have the lecture schedule with you. Now I'm going to quickly talk about the introduction of the course, how what kind of questions you can expect in the exam, how we are going to complete the question paper, and how we are going to complete the entire syllabus, and what all topics will we be covering. I'll give you that brief in just 10 minutes, and then we'll start with the first topic. So guys, when you look at the lecture plan, you would have noticed that I start with the topic of climate change first, right? I start with climate change. Climate change is the first topic. Now, a lot of people ask me that why climate change is the first topic that I'm going to start with. The reason is very clear, because see, when you talk about the subject when you talk about the exam of civil services, ecology has a very high weightage, right? Okay, Anji, just wait for it. Because I've just talked about it, so I'll just finish this and then I'll talk about mentorship and all these things. There are a couple of announcements also that I need to make. So let me just talk about this. I'll just take 10 minutes and then I'll answer these questions. These are quite valid questions, so I'll talk about them, right? So when you talk about the question paper of civil service exams, they have mentioned, you know, the syllabus, but you know, ecology is probably the only subject where UPSC do not expect in-depth knowledge of the subject. They do not ask questions which are very much rooted in the depth of ecology, right? Most of the questions are somewhere related to current affairs, very much inspired from current affairs. Of course, you can expect questions which could be completely theoretical, but current affairs plays a very important role when it comes to ecology environment, because a lot of questions are directly inspired from the current affairs only, right? They can be rooted from the news of last 1 or 2 years. So guys, which news has made the most headlines when you talk about environment, climate change? All of you guys, all of us are eyewitnesses of climate change. All of you, if you may be coming from different parts of the country, but if you come from North India, you guys know how severe the summers have become, how severe the droughts have become. If you come from the Vidarbha region of Maharashtra, you realize although the people of Vidarbha have already faced acute droughts, but they have realized how the droughts have become more severe. We have seen more farmers' deaths in the 21st century than in the 20th century already, right? When you talk about the city like Bangalore, when did we ever heard of a flood in Bangalore? Bangalore flooding, I never heard. Just 1 second. I never heard of a flood in Bangalore, right? Never thought that there will be, a flood in Bangalore. But in 2022, we all saw how the flood in Bangalore occurred. Still, Bangalore is in high alert, right? They have been giving warnings all the time. When did we heard Chennai having a flood? In 2015, we saw the Chennai flood for the first time. In 80 years, it was the flood of the flood that happened in the past 80 years in Chennai, and now it has become a regular affair in both these cities. You can understand that how these things are changing, and we all are eyewitnesses of these things. So the reason why I start with climate change is because climate change is one area where we can have practical understanding of the concept with our own experiences. I hope you guys are able to understand. So I start with climate change first, but it does not mean that I do not talk about the basics. Even though UPSC might be asking questions on current affairs, but I will not be skipping the basics. After I finish the topic of climate change, I then talk about the basics of ecology, right? I then talk about the basics. Under this basics, I discuss the basic principles, the basic rules, the basic terminologies, whatever things are there, right? The various terms that are there in ecology, the various concepts that are there. I'll talk about all these things, right? All these things are covered in the basics. So it is not like I'm skipping the basics. But I'll start with climate change because this basically shapes the mindset of the student, that they understand that why environment ecology is important for civil services and what sort of questions can be asked. Because a lot of questions can be rooted in this. In fact, I can talk about almost like there have been 12 years of question papers we have for environment, because the subject was inducted in 2013. In 2013, environment as a subject was introduced, and since 2013 onwards, you can expect an average of almost 10 to 14 questions every year. So we have a question bank of almost 150-200 questions with us, which have been asked in the past 12 years. So out of these 150 questions, I can easily take 20 to 30 questions only from the topic of climate change. So that is the kind of weightage. So when you look at the trend that UPSC follows, you'll be better prepared if we start with climate change, and that's my strategy, to start with climate change basically. Then guys, after I cover the basics, so once I talk about all the basics, once your foundation is built with the help of the basics, then we move on to topics like, so I consider basics, biodiversity is also here only. Right, basics of biodiversity. What is the meaning of biodiversity? What is the meaning of species? The different types of terminologies are there in species. Different types of species are there. You must have heard of keystone species, endemic species, what do you call exotic species. Different terminologies are there. So all those things will be covering it here. Alpha diversity, beta diversity, gamma diversity. All these things are part of the concept. These are part of the basics. So once I complete the basics, then again I'll talk about the various issues, and these issues are typically sourced from the PMF IAS book. PMF IAS, it is already considered as the best study material for environment, and of course other topics are also sourced from the same book. You can expect PMF IAS as the source for all the topics, but typically for issues I'll be following the same chronology that PMF IAS have followed. I'll follow the same pattern, the same index that PMF IAS has followed, so you will not have any problem. You can directly relate it with the class notes and the notes and the books that have been given to you, right? So these two things that you can consider. So the issues here, so you understand that the issues are related to loss of biodiversity, right? Ecosystem degradation. So when we study ecology, we'll study what is an ecosystem, and then we'll talk about the problem of ecosystem degradation, right? Then we have, when you talk about ecosystem degradation, there are different types of ecosystem. So we'll talk about wetland degradation, mangrove degradation. We'll talk about degradations of different types of ecosystems, grassland degradation, all those things. Then there are other issues like pollution. Pollution itself is such a massive issue that you have plastic pollution as one problem. Then you have e-waste as another problem. Then you have air pollution, a very big problem in now some of the major cities of India. Urban heat island will come up in the discussion of climate change itself, right, Manu? So all these things would be, part of the issues. I'm just giving you a brief discussion because you already have the lecture plan, so you have an idea. And then once we talk about the issues, then we have to talk about what solutions we can offer, what measures we can expect. So when you talk about the measures, this is where I'll talk about all the national and international measures, national as well as international, right? So you understand that when you talk about national measures, we have a lot of environmental laws. We have got a lot of environmental laws. In the class itself, I'll be discussing I'll be basically introducing you to almost 17 laws. 17 to 18 laws are there in the country which are directly or indirectly related to environment. Most of them are directly related to environment, and so those environmental laws, I'll be introducing you to almost 17 of these laws, but it is not like I'll be discussing all the 17 laws with the same depth. Some laws are very important, they are integral part of this discussion itself, but some laws may be partially important. Like Mines and Minerals Act, it may be partly related to environment, partly related to geography, right? Sometime can also be related to center state relations you can consider, because some of the minerals, they are under this union list, some of the minerals are under the state list, right? Then when you talk about Atomic Energy Act talks about radioactive waste management. So that part of waste management comes under ecology environment. But yeah, Rahul, just wait. I'm going to answer all these questions. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll be answering this. So when it comes to radioactive waste management, so that waste management part is ecology, but when it comes to other standards, that comes under safety and all those areas. So you can understand that some laws passed by the parliament, they may be directly affecting the environment, some of them may be indirectly affecting the environment. Like when we talk about Environment Protection Act, it talks about environment impact assessment, it talks about all these pollution, plastic waste management act, all the plastic waste management rules, e-waste management rules, all of them are under the EPA, Environment Protection Act. So we'll be discussing EPA in full depth. When it comes to Wildlife Protection Act, we'll be discussing Wildlife Protection Act in full depth, because they are completely related to environment, but some of them are indirectly, so we'll talk about them. So I'll introduce you to all the environmental laws in the country, but we'll be discussing some of them in full depth, some of them partially, right? So that is going to be our strategy. And when it comes to international initiatives, we'll try to cover as much as possible, right? As much as possible, because this is where there is no limit. This is where there is no limit, and you can have a lot of topics that may be covered in the international initiatives part, but we'll try to cover nearly the ones that are given in the PMF IAS book, because the book has been a holistically made material that covers almost all the initiatives. So you can consider that at least whatever is given in the PMF IAS book, we'll try to cover all of them, and we'll try to understand them so that we can remember them for the longest period. Okay, so that is going to be the strategy. It is not a very difficult topic to qualify, because everything is related directly to us, right? Guys, I often tell this in the class, that why ecology environment happens to be the easiest subject, why it is the easiest subject to qualify, even though it has a very high weightage. A weightage is almost 14 questions every year. That has been the weightage in the past 12 years. But why do I say that ecology environment is the easiest subject to understand? The reason for that is, see, when you look at the subject of environment is something that is directly related to our own existence. Guys, all of us understand that when the government of India takes initiatives for environment protection, whenever any state government takes initiative for environment protection, I happen to believe that instead of calling it environment protection, we should start calling it self-protection. Why self-protection? Because everything that we are doing is making sure that we survive on the planet. I hope you understand that when you talk about initiatives to mitigate air pollution, when you talk about initiatives to reverse climate change, we are not doing it for the animals, we are not doing it for the plants, we are doing it for our own survival. So instead of calling it environment protection, I always tell students that create this mindset that you are studying all these things for not for environment but for our own survival. Guys, remember, just to give you one small point, Earth as a planet is around 4.6 billion years old. This is the age of the planet Earth. 4.6 billion years is the age of the planet Earth. This is the age of planet Earth. Life has originated on Earth nearly 3.6 to 3.8, 3.2 to 3.8 billion years ago. Life originated these many years ago. 3.6 to 3.2 to 3.8 billion years. Billion, I am saying. There are 9 zeros after 1. This is the age of Earth. This is the age when life originated on Earth. And guys, humans originated. So I'll just give you plants. Their origin, plants originated on Earth around 2.4 billion years ago. Plants originated. Life originated here. Plants originated at this time. And when you talk about primates, primates are like human-like species. Great apes, they originated around 2.6 great apes originated around 2.5 to 6 million years ago. Guys, million means 6 zeros. 2.4 billion years ago plants originated, 2.5 to 6 million years ago primates originated. Great apes came, जहाँ से humans evolve हुए, from where humans have evolved. And guys, humans, or what you call the Homo sapiens, humans, our origin happened not more than 30,000 to 50,000 years ago. That means 30,000 years ago humans were not there, but Earth was still a living planet. Even if the humans go extinct, it is not like Earth will go extinct. Earth will still remain a living planet even after the humans go extinct. So guys, all these initiatives that we are taking, we are not trying to protect environment, we are not trying to protect Earth, we are trying to protect the conditions that will make humans survive on Earth. We are trying to create or maintain the conducive conditions for humans to survive. It is not for others, it is for our own protection. So instead of calling it environment protection, I always tell students, treat it as self-protection. And now if you have understood the philosophy of the exam, that it is meant for self-protection, now you will be able to understand the things better. Because keep this mindset that you are not doing it for somebody else, you are doing it for your own protection, for our own survival. And now this class is no more an ecology class. This is a self-protection class, a self-defense class. I hope you all understand, right? So this is what we have. So this is the question paper, a brief introduction of the lecture plan. Now let me quickly answer the question. A lot of students have asked the questions here. So about notes making. So guys, when it comes to notes, when it comes to making notes, I expect the students to make their own notes. Okay, mind my words here. Rahul have asked this question, Anji has asked the question. So Manu has also asked the same question. When it comes to notes, guys, I expect you to make your own notes. You make the notes in the class itself, right? Those will be your class notes, right? They are going to be your class notes. Okay, this is something that you will be making on your own, your class notes. So make sure whatever things you are finding important in the class, whatever things I am delivering in the class, you make sure that you write it down. Okay, now is the class notes enough? No, there will be some reference notes. So first reference is of course our PMF IAS environment book. First is PMF IAS environment book. Then along with that, we'll also be giving you current affairs. Current affairs, they are already shared with the students on the PMF IAS Telegram channel, right? They are shared. And along with that, I'm going to make weekly current affairs on YouTube that I'm going to offer, that I'm going to provide for everyone. But of course, our own students will be highly benefited by this because I will be directly relating them with the discussions of the class itself. So what I expect, that this is going to be another reference material, right? Then guys, at the end of the session, there is another book that PMF IAS publishes. It's called Magnum, which is technically the compilation of the annual environmental news and annual environmental issues which are important, and this is published at the end of the session, comfortably before the exam. Somewhere around the month of January, February it will be published, and it will be having all the current events, all the current affairs of the last 1 year. So this is going to be enough for all the students. I don't expect anything to be referred beyond this. Of course, a lot of students ask me questions regarding NCERTs. NCERTs are very good book. I am not saying that NCERTs are bad book, but understand this. NCERTs have been made for students who want to pursue that subject in future. First of all, NCERT on environment is not a dedicated book. There is no dedicated environment book on NCERT. We can refer to some topics of biology from the class 11th, some topics from class 12th likewise. So some references we can take from NCERT books, but those references have already been covered in full explanation in the PMF IAS environment book. And along with that, I will also be giving my own handwritten notes or my own notes, right? These are basically, I'm writing it as faculty notes. So sometimes there are some topics which I think requires some broader foundation build up. For that, I will be sharing my own notes with you. Like when I talk about ocean acidification is an environmental phenomena, but to understand acidification you need to know a little bit of science. So for that I'll be sharing my own handout, and that will be helping you. So this is everything that is going to be shared with you. A lot of this material has already been shared, and as we progress further, I'll be sharing some of my notes as well. Now one more question, that how I'm going to share the notes with you. So guys, because the first three classes that we have, it is basically open for everyone. Students, all from everywhere can join these first three classes. They are freely available for all the students. So it would not be possible for us to filter our own students in the first three classes, right? Although I'm hoping that all the students who look at our lectures, they would eventually join them and eventually become a part of our PMF IAS, mentorship. But once we finish the first three classes, we have our own students filtered, and for those students we'll be making one WhatsApp group. Manjuna sir has already mentioned this in the chat itself. So we will make one WhatsApp group, and this WhatsApp group would be a dedicated group for the subject of environment. And in that WhatsApp group we can have discussions. I can directly share the study material which I want to share with you guys. All the related videos, all the related screenshots from the PMF IAS book, if I want to share with you, considering whatever topics we have discussed. So it would be like a daily discussion group that we'll be maintaining, and that will be helping you to understand whatever happened in the class today, related with the book and also related with all the current events. So it will be like a discussion platform where I want all of you guys to be actively involved. Okay, those of you who become a part of the course. And guys, in that WhatsApp group only, whatever notes I would write, whatever notes I want to share with you, I will be sharing it directly to all the students. In that way you will have first hand information. And guys, if you feel that you have a question, although I would prefer when the classes are already when the classes are ongoing, I would prefer that you ask questions in that WhatsApp group itself. You write your question in the group itself, because sometimes you may personally have a question, but it may be a question of other students also. They may not realize, or they may be hesitant. So I would prefer that you ask me questions there. But somehow if you think that you do not have a question on environment, but you simply want some guidance, you simply want some timetable being made, you want some plan, some strategy to be devised, for that you can directly send me a message, right? And I'll be happy to answer, right? We can also have discussions. I can give you an appropriate time to call, and then we can have those discussions. Mains answer writing. Now Anji, very good. It's also an important question. So I hope all of you have got the idea that class notes you have to make yourself. And why, guys, I want you guys to make class notes? For two reasons. First of all, when you make class notes, you understand what is your weakness, what is your strength. So normally students, when they make class notes, they normally write those things that they do not know, that they find important, right? So in that way you will be able to guide your own ship. You will be able to understand what all things you are supposed to write, what all things you are already knowing. That's first point. Second point is, see, the class will have its own pace. Class अपनी खुद की speed में चलेगी, right? The class will have its own pace, and sometimes I may not dictate a statement. Like most of the time I'll be giving you dictations also, but sometimes I may not dictate. I just tell you the things. Like right now, just a moment before, I told you Earth is so many years ago, life on Earth originated these many years ago, plants originated this time, primates came, humans came this. So I did not give you any notes on that. I just wrote a fact and shared with you, just to prove a point that how important is the subject of environment. But some of you might find that information also very lucrative, very important, and you may write it. because you can only decide what is important for you when it comes to this at this point. But so what is the point of writing? First point, you understand, making your own notes gives you the entire command in your own hands. Secondly, you also get to maintain speed. Guys, mind my words, if you are writing in a very slow handwriting, then qualifying civil services becomes a difficult task. Because if you just look at how many answers one is supposed to write. Anji, now coming to your question, if you look at the number of questions that are asked in mains, on an average, there are 20 questions asked in every GS paper. GS paper में 20 questions होते हैं on an average. It could be like in 2025 in 2013 it was 25 questions, right? So 20 questions on an average will be there. And each question has to be written in 250 words. 250 words for each question. How many words you are supposed to write? कितने words लिखने होंगे total? Just think about it. 20 into 250, approximately 5,000 words. Right? 5,000 words. Now guys, 5,000 words you will have to write in just 3 hours. 3 hours you will have to write 5,000 words. Now, and it's not just 5,000 words. If you have to write 5,000 words on one topic, it is still easy. You have to write it for 20 different questions, and those 20 questions are not from the same subject. In the paper, in the GS paper 3 itself, where environment is a part, you also have science, you also have economics. So you can understand that a question can be asked from economics. You have one mindset when you're writing economics, then suddenly the next question is from science, and then the next question may be ecology. So you can understand that how difficult it would be to switch from one, frame of reference to another frame of reference and then deliver your best possible answer. Best possible answer bhi deliver karna hai. So it becomes very difficult. Sometimes it becomes humanly impossible to finish the best answer for all the 20 questions in just 3 hours. So what is the best mains answer writing strategy? So guys, what I'm going to do basically, in every class, I'll start this with, you can say, from the 4th class onwards, right? From the 4th class onward, because by the time we reach the 3rd class, we would know enough that we can now start writing. So from the 4th or 5th class, we can start writing. So on an average, we get around 2 questions, right? Every year from environment, sometimes 3 also, but 2 questions we will at least have. So if you look at the past, 11 years of question papers, we have around 25 questions, 22 to 25 questions we'll have. My objective is to basically cover, because some questions may not be relevant today, right? Because if something that have been asked dedicatedly from an international initiative, like there was a question on something called Kyoto Protocol, something called Clean Development Mechanism that was asked in 2014, I don't see that question to be very valid today. So those kind of questions I don't have to look at, we don't have to see those questions, because those are important from that year's context. But today, because Kyoto Protocol is not in news at all, CDM, although people talk about CDM partially, but its nature has also been changed. So yes, Paris Agreement is the current popular thing. Manu, very good. So I may take references from Paris Agreement, because Paris Agreement is still valid. It is valid till 2030, right? You must have heard that recently the United Nations have mentioned that it is still possible to achieve the Paris Agreement 1.5 degrees Celsius objective. So what all details have been there. So what we can do, we can take references of the mains question that have been asked in the past, which may be still valid today. We can take those references, हम उसके आंसर लिख सकते हैं. But I will be making my own questions. I'll be taking questions from PMF sources also, and my own questions I'll be sharing. Again, I'll use the platform. For the platform of WhatsApp to share all those details. So whatever questions I think one should write, if I'm not able to give that question in the class, right after the class ends, I'll be sharing that question on the WhatsApp group. Mind my words, almost the classes have been scheduled in such a way that their questions are already ready. But how I'm going to evaluate? Evaluation matters. So guys, I'm going to once discuss this in the class, how one should write answers. I'm going to give you a general idea how I think a good answer should be written. That would be my own personal opinion. Of course, my personal opinion is inspired from a lot of toppers of the past years. By looking at their interviews, I have learned whatever things that the toppers have written in the answers, I'm going to deliver to you. That will be covered in one class. But once I start giving you the questions and you start writing, I expect all of you to write answers for whatever questions I give. Okay. In fact, this should be followed for every subject. Whatever things the teacher is asking you to write it straight away. I'll be sharing some inputs in between the class also that one could take up while writing answers. Maybe the first class may not be that, you may not be able to understand the importance of those inputs in the first class itself. So I'll be giving you those inputs in the classes as we go ahead. So I'll be helping you out with that. And once you write answers, for answer discussion, we will have one-to-one conversations. Answer discussions, we will have one-to-one conversations. And guys, I personally think that I should do one-to-one conversation for answer writing, because guys, I gave 5 mains and qualified only 1. So this is my personal, you can say, will. It's also that I do not want to leave mains answer writing for any student. I just want to make sure that students write the best possible answers. Okay. So because of my own personal history, I prefer to do one-to-one discussions for answer writing. And guys, you can use those answer writing sessions for other discussions also, mentorship or planning or all these things. Okay. So for answer writing, I will have one-to-one discussions. At least one-to-one discussions I will do with all the students, at least one, right? Because in that way it will be clear to you also that I will be also able to learn that how many of you are able to write good answers, and I will also be able to give you inputs. But once, if you keep writing answers, I will keep allocating one-to-one discussions for all the subsequent answers also, right? We can do one thing, like if you write 3 answers, we can discuss all the 3 answers in one discussion, one meeting like this, right? So for every single question, we may not have a separate time, but for 2-3 questions together, we can have one-to-one discussion, right? So I'll allocate a certain time of the day, and then we can have that conversation. All right. So that is something that is going to happen on a personal level. I hope all of you guys have been able to understand. See, again, Manu, you are asking the same question. As I said earlier, that the question paper was not difficult even this year. At least I did not think that the question paper was very difficult. There are some questions which I always tell students that should be left. I'll tell you those things here also, right? जो चीजें आप छोड़ सकते हैं, मतलब the questions that you guys can skip, right? So I hope all of you have got the idea. I hope all of you got the clarity. So this is what is going to be the entire system, how we are going to execute the classes, right? So guys, now I'm coming with one more announcement. Guys, I want you to be very participative, very interactive in the class. I appreciate those students a lot who ask a lot of questions. Don't be under this impression that your questions are going to be relevant or irrelevant, or what the teacher will feel. Don't be under any such impressions that I'll be judging you at this moment. I will be only judging you once you have finished the entire question paper, finished the entire course, and when you are writing answers, I will be judging your perception in those writing answers, right? Answers is the only way where I will be judging you. Otherwise, there is no point. You can ask me questions whenever you feel like. The platform has been made only for making the discussions more interactive, only for making the students more participative. I hope you are able to understand, right? Anjeeb, weekly test, actually, see, to be honest, although it is also there, weekly, like there are daily mains question practice that you must have noticed. PMF IAS keeps giving you daily mains answer writing practice, weekly answer writing practices and such. Guys, I often do not like to take test. मैं शुरू में test नहीं लेता हूँ. I don't try to take test. I will be giving you assignments, answer writing assignments. And because when I give a test, I have to give marks. But understand this. I'm teaching ecology right now. When UPSC asks questions, most questions are not just ecology questions. Like ecology questions will also have a dimension of science. Science question may also have a dimension of ecology, may also have a dimension of economy. Sometimes geography dimension is also there in science, in environment. Sometimes societal dimension is also there. Indian society dimension may also be there. So even if I rate an answer a good answer, I will only be rating it from the domain of environment. I hope, Anji, you are able to understand, right? So when it comes to UPSC questions are not directed to just one discipline. In fact, I tell this to the students all the time that no UPSC question is a dedicated environment question, no UPSC question is a dedicated science question. All of them have dimensions from other areas that can be put in. And that's how a good answer has to be written. One key input you have already got, that an answer should be multidimensional, multidisciplinary. So I can only rate your answers on environment. But once you learn polity, you learn economy, you learn science and tech, you learn geography, you learn all these disciplines, and then when you write an ecology answer, just imagine how beautiful that answer would be, how multidimensional that answer would be. It would be a delight to read an answer like that. I hope, Anji, you are able to understand, right? So I see there is no limitation in answer writing. There is no, so of course for MCQs, for prelims based questions, we can obviously have a test. For prelims based question, I can obviously have a test, but for mains, I am of this opinion that rather than taking test, you should keep writing, right? But make sure that you write in a word limit, write in a limited time also. That I'm going to help you out as and when we start, right? Anji, I hope you are able to understand, right? So this is going to come up gradually, and gradually the students are able to write. So testing you only on environment may not be good enough, but testing you on the overall preparation, overall subject, all the discipline together, that would be a better way to handle things, right? I hope you are able to understand, right? So current affairs A to Z are also PDFs are also going to be provided. I think they are going to be provided on a regular basis, so that will also be helping the students simultaneously. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. If there is any other question that you have related to the course, please ask. Otherwise, I'll start with the first topic. Anything related to the course if you have? I believe I have answered all the questions. Yes, Anji, for prelims, like I already said, multiple choice questions, prelims based questions, we can obviously have. For prelims based question, actually I do not take weekly test, I take test after every topic. So what I'll do, like say for example, climate change takes around 6 lectures. So we may take a test, I may share the test with you, right, after the 6th lecture on climate change. But the next topic may take 4 lectures. So we don't have to wait for the weekends. I'll be sharing the test right after we finish the topic. Okay. So that's how I'll be doing. So for every topic you can consider, like some topics I've clubbed 2 topics together in one test. Sometimes I've covered only one topic, like climate change, one dedicated test I've made, right? For the subjects of environmental laws, one dedicated test. But when it comes to national, international initiatives, there is both the topics have been merged together, and that's how I'm going to take the test, right? So Anji, that's how I'm going to take. So they would be not like if we cover it in 1 month, so you can't expect this only there would be 4 tests. You can expect that there would be more number of tests, not just 4, right? So that's how we'll be covering it. I hope you're able to understand, Anji. So for prelims based, we can have that, but for mains, I hope you understand, it would be better that we do more practice than testing, right? Okay. About newspaper reading, this is again a very good question. Newspaper is again very important for my own subject specifically. I prefer Hindu newspaper, down to earth Hindu and PMF. All the 3 sources are very good, right? You can follow these 3 sources. But I would again suggest, try to understand this, guys. Newspaper reading is very important. I'm not denying that. Reading newspaper is always good. It not just helps you to get more informed, but it also improves your vocabulary, especially if there is a newspaper like Hindu. Most of the things I have learnt, in English is from Hindu newspaper only, right? Like many of us have learnt. So Hindu newspaper is undoubtedly a very good newspaper. There is no doubt. Indian Express is also very good. I doubt how deeply they would cover environment and science, but yes, they do also cover environment and science partly, but I find Hindu covering more of this section better. They cover this area slightly better than Indian Express. So newspaper reading is good, but again this is where I think students should again remain in touch with their mentors. You have to remain in touch with me that newspaper reading is good, but I'm not saying that every one of you should start reading the newspaper today itself. This is something which is often discussed with my own fraternity. We often have discussion that when to read the newspaper, when to start reading newspapers. So guys, I'll just tell one thing to the students. See, when the things starts making sense to you, when the subject starts making sense to you, then you will be able to understand newspaper also. Like say for example, if you are reading the Hindu newspaper, Hindu Sunday newspaper comes up with a lot of science news. Environment news comes randomly almost on a day after, almost every alternate day news on environment comes. But if you are not aware of the basics, if you have not read the history of climate change negotiations, then you will always be struggling that what this negotiation is related to, right? So that is where you may have a problem. So I simply tell students that newspaper reading is important, but when to start newspaper reading is something which has to be understood, has to be dealt by a student. And I tell them that when things starts making sense to you, like suppose if you start understanding the issues of environment, and now you pick up a random article from the internet of Hindu on environment and see if you guys are able to understand the things, that is when you are ready to understand newspaper. That is when you can start. Because guys, newspaper reading is good, but if it is taking 2-3 hours of your time, 2 hours of your time if it is taking, because you are reading the newspaper, then you are wasting another half an hour to simply read everything associated to that news on the internet. It is taking a lot of time. So why to indulge and invest a lot of your valuable time in reading newspaper when PMF is already giving you an entire current affairs A to Z in a nutshell? And they are not just giving you current affairs, they are also giving you the background, so that if you are starting as a layman also, you'll be able to understand a lot of things within that entire current affair. And guys, mind my words, there is an entire team working here. There is no one person who's making current affairs and taking the entire 2-3 days to write. There's an entire team. There's an entire team of well qualified people who have given UPSC attempts, who have reached up to the interviews, who have given enough of their time in understanding the trends of the news related to UPSC. So they filter out the news for you and they give you the entire content in the first hand format. So I honestly think that guys, think about it. You have to minimize your effort. Suppose if you are reading a news from the Hindi newspaper and then you are again reading the same thing from the PMF current affairs. You can read the news of the Hindi newspaper, but it should not take more than 1 hour of your day. If you are finishing the entire Hindi newspaper in 1 hour of the day, you still have a lot of doubts, but leave those doubts to the teacher. Let them handle the things. So I think giving most effort to learn on a daily basis is better than giving effort in finishing newspaper. Because when you are reading, see, just think about it. When you are reading the newspaper without the context, then you are just reading the newspaper. But if you are reading the newspaper with full understanding, that is when you do not need any other source. So develop your ability to understand the things first. And then you can take a call that whether you are fit to start reading newspaper. I hope you are able to understand. So newspaper reading is important. I'm not saying that it is not important, but starting it today itself, I think it will be wasting a lot of time rather than helping you out. Because I don't see the importance of giving 2-3 hours or 2 hours of time in just reading newspaper. Because you will otherwise also have to invest the same time in reading the other source material. So when there is an entire dedicated team working for you in gathering the current affairs, delivering you the current affairs, then what is the point of investing so much of time in reading newspapers? So you can take the call yourself. I think this is a question that I would be in a position to answer once we finish something, once we start interacting more. so that I get to know that where each and every student is able to understand. Some of the students might already be following news, some of the students might already be following the PMF current affairs, so their base may be a little stronger than the others. So they may start reading newspaper a little early. You can consider that. But some students who are just starting from today itself, I would tell them that take your own time to prepare yourself, right? But be disciplined in preparing, right? You will be able to do the things, right? Ab dekho, guys, there are two things: long term and last mile strategies. You have to minimize the time that you are allocating to those activities which are simply repetitive. Newspaper is one of those activities, right? Then Yash, you have asked a question, some shortcuts and ideas to remember places. Yes, I will talk about it. I will talk about it. I will help you out with some of the things. Actually, Yash, to answer this question, there are some mnemonics that I made. There are some shortcuts, mnemonics techniques that I have made which can help you to remember some of the sites, right? Some of them are there. But I think this is also something that one can understand by doing more revision. So in the class itself, we'll be talking about few things so commonly that few things, few locations, few sites would be in your mind permanently, right? For others, for developments that happen later on, make sure that you are following the same things. I'll ask you guys, I have not talked about how to make class notes as of now. Right now I've only given you answers, but how I will suggest you to make class notes, I'll be answering that question and you know, in just a short while. And if you follow that strategy for answer writing, for making notes, that will be a more holistic way of making notes, right? So I'll tell you that in a short while. Anji, you've asked, what if I have optional classes? If in that case I'm unable to attend the live class? No, but I hope you are aware that you have the entire liberty of watching the recorded lectures also. The recorded lectures are going to be valid till mains 2026, if I'm not wrong, or maybe the admin can clarify here, right? Till what time the mains, the recorded lectures would be available to you, right? Maybe the admin can help till what time. Getting lots of, yes, see, the purpose of the WhatsApp group is to discuss the doubts. But suppose if you are unable to attend the class and you're doing the class a little later, let's suppose, take the worst case scenario that you're doing it after 2 months and then you have a question, but you can understand that I'm not going to change my number would still be there, so you can simply text me a message and ask. But I would still okay, it is going to be valid till 2027, guys, till 1st January 2027. So I think it will be valid enough for enough long period that you will be able to access the things, right? So what I'm saying is that when you talk about like if you are a part of a certain batch and we have a WhatsApp group, I would expect all of you to be regularly interacting on that WhatsApp group, okay? Because being regular is more important, because suppose if there is a discussion that we had on the WhatsApp group and we have answered, we have covered up the entire discussion there itself. There is some screenshot that I've shared, there are some study materials that I've shared, and you have read those. Now, if you have regularly gone through the WhatsApp group, then it would not be a problem as such, because that now so even if we conversate after 2 months, I will have a reference in my mind that, see, this is what was shared in the WhatsApp, this is what was discussed in the class, and then you already have the references, and then I can guide you better, right? So it will be always better that if you give that much of effort, that you are attending the classes regularly, and you are also interacting with the teacher, interacting with the entire mentors on a regular basis on WhatsApp and also in the class. So your interaction matters a lot, right? Only in that way I will be able to learn better which student requires more of my help. I hope you are able to understand. So things are not difficult, guys. Mind my words. It is just a platform that has been made so communicatively interactive that you can ask questions, you can raise questions in whichever format you feel like. You can raise question in the class, ask me in the class, you can raise question on the WhatsApp, ask me on the WhatsApp group, or you can later also, ask me questions whenever we have a one-to-one interactions, right? I hope all of you guys are able to understand this. Any other question that you have? A lot of questions have been asked here. It's a good interaction, guys. I like these kind of classes where students ask questions, students, share their queries. Any other question, guys? Tell me. All right, so I think I have been able to answer all the questions here. So now let me start. Let me start with the first topic of discussion. So the first topic that I'm going to take up, it is the topic of climate change, right? Climate change is the first topic. But before I talk about climate change, let me suggest how I recommend students making notes. How you should be making notes, guys. This is just one more point that I will make, and I expect you guys to make notes like this for both. This is, and guys, this is my own suggestion. I'm not saying that this is a suggestion for other subjects also. This is a suggestion for my subjects of environment and science. For both environment and science, I suggest students to make notes like this, because both the subjects are very much inclined, very much inspired from current affairs. Yes, I'll share that. So, as most of the questions that are asked, they are influenced from current affairs some way. So what I tell students, that see, when you look at your notebook comes like this, right? This is how the notebook is, right? You have one side, two sides like this. First of all, you should choose a blank sheet notebook. Why blank sheets? Because in the UPSC exam, you have got the blank sheets. So every time when you write, you naturally develop a habit of writing in the blank sheets, right? Then what I tell students, you write only on one side. Whatever class notes you are making, write only on one side. Leave the other side completely blank. Yes, notes making should be done in an A4 sheet, because UPSC standard is basically an A4 sheet, and that also comes with margins on two sides. So if you can follow the same pattern of note making, that will be helpful, because that will be preparing you, right, for the actual exam. Because sometimes students are writing on ruled notebooks, but when they write in a blank notebook, their lines are not straight. So in that way, it does not create a good impression. Okay, so you take the notebook which is blank first of all. So you write class notes on one side and leave the other sides for updates. So notes on one side, updates on the other side. Notes one side, updates on the other side, right? So like one of you mentioned Ramsar sites, so I'll take the example of Ramsar site itself. Ramsar sites are basically wetlands, right? Ramsars are basically those wetlands which are of international importance. So wetlands could be lakes, it could be patches of rivers, it could be, salt pans, it could be paddy fields. Many of these things would come under wetlands. A very holistic definition is there for wetlands. So Ramsar sites are basically those sites which are wetlands of international importance. So what happens whenever any state government takes an initiative of protecting their lakes, protecting their wetlands, and if they are able to protect it to the standards prescribed in the Ramsar Convention, then the site may be given a Ramsar status, a Ramsar site status. Right now in India we have 85 Ramsar sites. So this shows that in India we have already, the state governments have taken initiative to protect these many number of Ramsar sites. But guys, as new Ramsar sites keeps coming up, so it is very much possible that as new Ramsar sites comes up, it is possible that new updates will also come. So when new updates come, you can write those updates here. Okay, so wherever we are writing class notes on Ramsar sites, you can write the updates here. I hope you are able to understand. When we talk about any new news on, when we talk about climate change, and suppose a new report comes out, a new study comes out on climate change, you can write those reports here. You can write those things here. So I often tell students that right now I told you that class notes, faculty notes, PMF IAS book, PMF IAS Magnum, and then some current affairs A to Z from PMF IAS. All those study material is going to be given. Are you going to carry all that hefty study material at the examination hall or at the time of the exam? No. You can only afford to carry one source. So what I tell students, that your class notes, that ones that you have made with your own hands, should be your last revision material. There should be nothing more than one book, right? So one notebook, not more than that. So what I tell students, like say for example you have written the class notes, and then suppose today itself you go and study the same topic from the PMF IAS book, and you find some new interesting information. You take that information from the book itself and write it in your updates part or in the class notes part. Write it here. In that way, your entire study material of your class notes and your PMF book have been clubbed into one source. Then, because you have left one entire page on updates, there could be some new updates that can come up in the name of current affairs. Add those updates, but don't write the entire thing. Write in the form of keywords, because if you have read the things completely, a keyword would be enough to remind you of the internal details, right? So that keyword, so those keywords should be written here in the form of keywords. You should be writing, because now once you have written the keywords, it should be able to help you. And just write minimal description of the keywords. If you think that you may forget the keyword, write a minimal description, and that's how make your notes. In this way, your notes would be made in a way covering all the important study material, all the important resources in one single compilation. I hope you're able to understand. Follow this for the subject of environment and science. Environment and science, this is the strategy that one has to follow. I hope all of you guys have been able to understand. So this is everything that we have. Now a very important announcement, guys. Very important announcement. Guys, today and tomorrow we have two classes. Today and tomorrow we'll have the class on the same platform, in the same way how we are conducting the class today and tomorrow. From Monday onwards, the Monday class, that will be the third class, it will be organized, or it will be conducted on Zoom. And the Zoom classes are in a way which are found to be more interactive. Like you guys can see me right now. In Zoom, it is possible to see, like I will be also able to see you guys. It will be a complete interactive class, where it will be like a real classroom like experience, where I will be seeing you. I'll be able to point out the student's name also, and I'll be able to ask questions specifically from students also. So that becomes a slightly more interactive session. And another great part is that I'll be able to share my screen as well. So when I'll be sharing the screen, you will be able to have better visibility, and it will be more two-way interaction, right? Students can raise hands, they can ask questions straight away, and there would be no lag in the interaction between, right? So I think, Rohit, the third edition has already been released. It will be shared to you. You know, for all the students who have joined the course, the third edition, the latest edition, is going to be shared of the PMF IAS book. It will be shared, right? It has been widely updated, and alongside with that, Magnum 2025 has also been updated till December 2024. All the current affairs are there, and likewise it will be going like this, right? Yes. So Manu, you have rightly mentioned that it will be offering us better two-way communication. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. So this is everything that I had to share. Before starting the course. So guys, now I think we are good to start the course. So it has been a fruitful discussion. I have discussed almost everything that I was supposed to discuss with you. I believe students have also asked questions enough to understand, or basically to get all their doubts cleared. Now let us start, guys. So the first topic of discussion that I'm going to take is global warming. We have around 40 minutes of the class left. So let us quickly make these 40 minutes worthy enough, right? So the first topic is climate change and global warming. I have already explained why I start with the topic of climate change, because it's a very practical and a topic which is directly related. We all are eyewitnesses of this event. So guys, when you talk about climate change, what exactly is the meaning of climate change? What exactly is the meaning? So guys, climate change is nothing new. Climate is basically long-term weather pattern, right? Long-term weather pattern. Weather patterns, you understand? You know, humidity, right? Temperature, average humidity, rainfall, heat wave. These are all different weather patterns. So whatever is the long-term weather pattern, like say for example, I take this class from Delhi. So whatever is the long-term weather pattern of Delhi in the month of June, that will be the average or climate of Delhi in the month of June. So if you take the past 100 years of average and see what has been the weather conditions in the month of June, we can easily say that this is the kind of climate that is there in Delhi in the month of June. We consider the month of June mostly as pre-monsoons in Delhi, because the monsoons reach North India after 29th of June, right? So this is still the part of the pre-monsoon session, right? So I hope all of you understand. So this is what basically is climate, long-term weather pattern. So when you take a certain weather and you assess it for a long term, we call it climate. Now what is climate change? So you can understand easily, it's just an English word. So when the long-term weather pattern starts changing, that's called climate change. So long-term weather pattern change hua hai, it's called climate change, right? So when the long-term weather pattern starts changing, we call it climate change. Now guys, mind my words, climate change have happened naturally also. In the past, naturally also climate change have occurred. Climate change have occurred due to multiple reasons. You must have heard of events like global cooling, ice age. These were nothing but long-term climate change patterns, right? And also due to a lot of solar activity. You know, it has been stated that sun's corona and the sun's outer layer releases a lot of magnetic as well as particles, magnetic shock waves and particles that also influence the long-term weather patterns of Earth and other planets. So yes, so long-term change in the climate is basically called climate change. Now guys, why are we talking about climate change today? The reason is not the climate change that is happening naturally. Guys, since the Industrial Revolution, I hope all of you know, Industrial Revolution started. It is believed to be started in the second half of the 18th century, right? After 1750s start hua tha Industrial Revolution, right? So Industrial Revolution started after 1750s and in the second half of the 18th century. So when the Industrial Revolution started, what happened in the Industrial Revolution? Factory system of manufacturing started, right? But guys, we don't have to look into the revolution. Basically what happened, our dependency on fossil fuels increased. Our dependency on fossil fuel increased. The fossil fuels include, all of you know, coal, petroleum, these are all fossil fuels, right? Our dependency on fossil fuels increased. And guys, today fossil fuels have become an integral part of our entire developmental journey. Just imagine, today still in India, as per the government of India itself, almost 70-75% of electricity is produced from coal alone in India itself. When you talk about Western countries also, even though they are shifting rapidly towards renewable energy, but still majority of the countries have more than 50% power produced from fossil fuels. So it clearly shows that as our dependency on fossil fuels increased, this increase of dependency on fossil fuels. Now guys, these fossil fuels are mostly hydrocarbons. These fossil fuels are mostly hydrocarbons. What are hydrocarbons? Hydrocarbons are basically those materials, see the name itself is clearly suggesting those substances which contains both hydrogen and carbon. We call them hydrocarbon. So all of you must have heard, see, coal is also made up of long chains of hydrocarbon. Petrol, diesel, kerosene, all of them are made up of long chains of hydrogen and carbon, and those are called hydrocarbons. So when these hydrocarbons burn, they release, after burning, they release CO2, and this CO2 have been blamed as the reason for the ongoing climate change. CO2 is not the only gas, but just to start the conversation, CO2 is often blamed as the reason, carbon dioxide as the reason for ongoing climate change. That is the reason, guys, why all the time when we talk about global warming, we try to reduce, we often talk about reducing CO2. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that when you look at the entire industrial revolution, you will notice a lot of discussion around CO2 emissions. And guys, what climate change is happening today is not a natural climate change. It is basically the climate change caused due to human activities. Starting from the Industrial Revolution. Starting from the Industrial Revolution, human activities have been contributing into more and more impact on the climate. And just to give you a quick idea, just to give you a quick reference, guys, on an average, if you look at the average temperature, of Earth, even from the PMF IAS book, you can see the average temperature of Earth is approximately 15 degrees Celsius. 15 degrees Celsius is the average temperature of Earth. That means Earth on an average is still a quite cooler planet. काफी cold planet है. 15 degrees Celsius the average temperature of Earth. Considering the entire Earth, North Pole, South Pole, and the tropical forest around the equator, temperate region, all these things, it is 15 degrees Celsius. This is the average temperature of Earth. And guys, since the Industrial Revolution, the CO2 emissions have caused the change in the climate that the average temperature have started increasing. You'll be surprised to know, on an average temperature started increasing. You'll be surprised to know that now the average temperature in 2024, last year's data, in 2024, the average temperature of Earth has already been reported to increase by 1.2 degrees Celsius. On an average, 1.2 degrees Celsius. And in 2004 only, for more than 80 days, this temperature was increased by 1.5 degrees Celsius. So guys, because of the human activities that has happened since the Industrial Revolution, the increase in temperature has been reportedly 1.2 degrees Celsius overall, and for 80 days out of the 365 days of 2024, I think 2024 was a leap year, 366 days of 2024, 1.5 degrees Celsius was reported in 80 days. Increase in temperature was 80 days. For 80 days it was 1.5. That means the average temperature of Earth have started shifting. The average temperature of Earth has started shifting from 15 degrees to 16.2 to 16.5 degrees. This is the average temperature. And guys, we are seeing an increase in temperature, and that is why this increase in temperature is often referred as global warming, because this increase in temperature causing a warming effect. This increase in temperature is causing a warming effect. So this is basically, this climate change is often referred as global warming. So this climate change that we are witnessing it is not making the Earth cooler, but making the Earth warmer because of the increase in the average temperature. And this increase in the average temperature could have happened because of natural reasons also. It could have happened naturally also, but this impact that we are seeing is mostly being found out to be caused due to human activities. Humans are considered to be primarily responsible for this change in the temperature. So that's why it is human induced climate change, right? 16.2 to 16.5. I hope you are able to understand. Our Earth is relatively cool, but with change in... So Manu, it's a very good question that you've asked. I'm glad that you've asked this question. That he has asked a question that Earth is relatively cooler, just 15 degrees Celsius. Then why this 1.5 degree change is such a problem? 1.5 degree to hai, kaun si badi baat hai? What is this? 1.5 degree is such a small number. Why are we so concerned about 1.5 degree? In fact, guys, why 1.5 degree? It is expected, if everything keeps going in the same way, if we do not do anything about this increase in temperature, it is expected that by 2050, the temperature will cross 2 degrees Celsius, increase by 2 degrees Celsius. By 2030, 1.5 degrees Celsius. By 2050, 2 degrees Celsius will be breaching, right? And by the end of this century, the temperature will likely to cross 3 degrees. by the end of this century, right? It is still a small number, just 2 degrees. Only 2 degrees is the increase in temperature. So why are we so concerned about this 1.5 degree, 2 degree? Like, tell me guys, just tell me one thing. If you go out and you find that the average temperature is 20 degrees Celsius and the temperature changes from 20 to 21.5, will you feel any difference? It is still comfortable. 21.5, 20 degrees Celsius, still very comfortable. If you go out and the temperature says minus 10 degrees Celsius, very cold, or if it says minus 8.5 degrees Celsius, what is the difference? It is still extremely cold. So why there is so much of discussions on just 1.5 degrees Celsius? कितना छोटा सा number है, discussion की ज़रूरत ही क्या है? No guys, it is a very big number. Let me tell you that how big this number is. This is a summer season going on. I believe some of you might be having air conditioners in your house. At what temperature do you normally keep your air conditioner? बताओगे एक बार? Can you please answer? At what temperature do you normally keep your air conditioners, guys? Tell me. What is the temperature at which you keep your air conditioners? Tell me, guys. If anyone is taking the class from Bangalore, the weather in Bangalore right now must be very pleasant, right? They may not be using air conditioners, but otherwise, if you have gone to a place where they keep air conditioners, because I don't think Bangalore they need air conditioners. Okay, Ashan is saying 26 degrees Celsius. Ashan, okay. Then we have I'm sorry, I may not be able to pronounce it correctly. I'm Shyam Kant Reddy. He says 18 to 20. Manu is saying he doesn't use a fan. He doesn't use an air conditioner. He uses fan at number 5. Okay, so guys, most of the students, most of the people, if you would have come across, they would say that they are keeping their air conditioner between 22, 24, 25 degrees. That is an average that even the government also recommends. BE, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, they also recommend that 24 degrees Celsius is the best temperature, right? Most energy efficient also. Guys, next time onwards, what you do, like Ishan, you says 26 degrees Celsius. Next time you put it on 28. But do not make any other change. 28, keep it at 28 only. Shyamkant, if you are keeping it at 20, keep it at 22 now. But do not make any other change in your lifestyle. Like say for example, if you're wearing a certain shirt, wearing a certain trouser, keep wearing the same clothes, keep using the same blanket when you're sleeping. Do not change any other thing. Just increase your temperature by 2 degrees. Guys, you'll be surprised to know, increasing the temperature by 2 degrees, it will be difficult for you to remain in the same room for more than 15-20 minutes without changing your lifestyle. Do not just take off your shirt if you're feeling warm. No, keep wearing the same shirt, keep wearing the same clothes, keep using the same blanket. Every other thing should be maintained in the same lifestyle. Without changing your lifestyle, just increase the temperature by 2 degrees. Manu, just think about you also. If the temperature of Bangalore is 25, which is very pleasant, if you increase it by 2 degrees Celsius, you will notice the difference. It will become sometimes impossible to stay in the room for more than 15-20 minutes. The humidity levels of the room will start changing. The water in the air, that's humidity, that will start changing. It will become intolerable after a few minutes. And guys, this 2 degrees Celsius, this is the impact of 2 degrees Celsius for us. Sometimes in a room, like when we used to take class of a lot of students, we used to keep the ACs on even in the extreme winters of Delhi. Why? Because it used to get so humid in the class in the extreme winters that without the AC you cannot go inside the class, even when the average temperature was way cooler. So this 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees Celsius, even for us, it becomes very difficult. And guys, mind my words, I'm not finished yet. Humans, we will find it difficult to survive if the temperature increases by 2 degrees. And guys, this entire planet Earth, do you know how many species they have? 8.74 million. is the average number of species on Earth, and only one species has got an air conditioner. We have got an air conditioner so that we can keep the right temperature comfortable for us, irrespective of the outside temperature. But just think about, if we can't stay in that room for more than 15-20 minutes if we increase the average temperature by 2 degrees, just imagine how the animals, plants all across the earth would be able to survive if the temperature increased by 2 degrees. Okay, are you guys having some noise in the background? I think there is some problem with the audio. Please tell me, guys, if you are having any problem in the audio. Okay, all of you are having a problem? Tell me, is it there now? Is it still there? Is it still there, guys? Excuse me. Is it still there? Okay, maybe I think a little bit of noise is still there. The receiver is also connected. So I'll continue. If it is not bothering the class, I'll continue, right? And I'll see with the receiver base. Actually, the receiver is kept on the a little behind the screen, so I will have to. It will take some time to shift its location, so I'll change it after the class. All right. If it is bearable enough, I'll continue. Okay. So okay. All right. So I hope you all understand this. So when you say the number 2 degrees Celsius, it feels a small number. But imagine only one species has gotten access to air conditioner. 8.74 million species are there on Earth. Everyone do not have an air conditioner. So this 2 degrees Celsius, when it increases for us, it becomes unbearable. For every other animal, it becomes unbearable. Just imagine, guys, if the average temperature increases of the Arctic region by 2 degrees Celsius and Arctic loses all its ice caps, which is expected by 2050, that Arctic region in the summers is going to become completely. All right, I'll continue, sir. Right. So the Arctic region is expected to become completely ice free by 2050. Just imagine if Arctic loses all its ice. There is an animal that is found in that region called polar bear. All of you must have heard of it, right? Where will the polar bear of the Arctic go? Of course, we have polar bear in northern Canada. We have got polar bear in Greenland also. But they will be losing a significant part of their habitat, right? There's just a 2 degrees Celsius increase, right? So this is where it becomes a major concern. So this 2 degrees Celsius change could be a massive change. I hope all of you understand. There could be a lot of other events also that may occur with just a 2 degrees Celsius change. I'll be talking about wet bulb and all these things in a short while. I hope all of you guys are able to get it. So this is basically what we have under the simple idea of the 1.5 degree increase. Now when you talk about how this increase in temperature will affect, right? How this increase in temperature would affect this, there is a concept called dry bulb and wet bulb temperature. What is this idea? Dry bulb and wet bulb temperature. This dry and wet bulb temperature is a very good way of analyzing the effects of climate change. So guys, what happened? There are two things. I have also talked about dry and wet bulb even in the discussion that we have even in the demo class. See, when you this particular term dry and wet bulb temperature has become very common of late in the discussion of climate change, because now we are witnessing a high wet bulb temperature in India, so it has become a major concern of discussion, the major point of discussion. So guys, let's suppose if I take a thermometer. I had a thermometer here, I was just looking for it. Okay, yes, here it is. So guys, this is a normal thermometer, normal digital thermometer. right? So this thermometer that we have normally, this is a body thermometer, so this will not be basically used for taking measurements of the air temperature. But suppose if I turn on this particular thermometer and I keep this thermometer in the air, and suppose this thermometer checks the temperature of the air. So what will happen? It will simply tell me what is the temperature of my surroundings, right? And the temperature reading will be showcased here, right? That's how this works. Guys, if I take the temperature of the surroundings in a simple way, this would be called the dry bulb temperature. Why dry bulb? Because the entire temperature is being checked for the normal air, right? This is dry bulb temperature. But imagine if I take a piece of cotton, imagine if I take a wick of cotton, this is a cotton wick, and I dip it in water. I dip this in water. I have got some water here. Oh, sorry. I dip this in water, and now this cotton wick is completely soaked in water, right? And now what I do, I wrap this cotton wick around the thermometer. Now what has happened? This is a wet cotton bulb. It's a wet cotton wick which is now wrapped around this thermometer. So this has become now wet bulb. Earlier it was just a dry bulb giving me the average temperature of the air, and now if I dip this cotton in water, the cotton has completely become wet, and now I take this wet cotton and put it around the thermometer. Now this thermometer has become a wet bulb thermometer. Now what temperature this thermometer will show me? See, if this cotton is wet, the air in the nearby region will start vaporizing this water. The air will hit, the water molecules will start vaporizing, and as the water vaporizes, the air will absorb all this water. As the water vaporizes, the cotton will start drying up, and as the cotton dries up, the heat of this bulb will be absorbed by the water, and the water will vaporize and go away. And as the cotton dries up, the temperature reading in the thermometer will start dropping. Guys, all of you have felt it. Like, say for example, if it is very hot and you just take bath with cold water, and you are still having a soaked t-shirt wearing, and you go out under the fan, what happens? Your entire body starts feeling cooler. What happens when you're sweating in the summers and you go stand under the fan? Your body starts feeling cooler. Why? Because the air now hitting your sweat is basically vaporizing this. So the sweat is basically absorbing the heat of your body and getting vaporized. Absorbing the heat and getting vaporized, leaving your body to cool down. The same thing is happening. This wet bulb is now going to absorb the heat around this bulb, absorb all this heat and vaporize, leaving the temperature to drop. I hope all of you understand. So by the simple logic, dry bulb temperature is always going to be a higher temperature, and for the same thermometer, the wet bulb temperature is always going to be a lower temperature. You guys can see the mercury is at a lower level, the mercury is at a higher level here, because the wet bulb temperature is the temperature which it is the minimum temperature that can be attained, where the entire moisture of this cotton wick is vaporized by absorbing the heat around the thermometer. So this is the minimum temperature achieved, and that is why the wet bulb temperature is always lower. Now guys, if the wet bulb temperature is lower enough, let's suppose if the wet bulb temperature is 20 degrees, that means if I pour a bucket of water on myself and I go out and stand in the open, my body temperature is likely to reduce to 20 degrees Celsius, and I'll be feeling very comfortable, right? 20-25 degrees. If the wet bulb temperature is 25 degrees, it is still quite comfortable. But guys, just think about it. If the wet bulb temperature touches 35 degrees, 35 degrees means that once you pour a bucket of water on yourself and you go out thinking that the water will eventually vaporize and I'll feel cooler. But what if your body does not cool beyond 35 degrees? Your body is still warm. That means you will keep imagining that the water will vaporize and you will feel cooler, but no, your body is still sweating because the body organs are still warmer. the body's temperature is still high. That is where it becomes a dangerous thing. So guys, World Bank in their report of 2023 suggested, in fact it's not just World Bank, almost every organization has given this limit. Although in the prelims exam World Bank related report was asked, in 2023 it was clearly stated in almost every international report that if the wet bulb temperature crosses or touches 35 degrees Celsius, then this is considered to be highly dangerous for most humans. Most humans and animals will find it difficult to thrive at the temperature of 35 degree wet bulb. 35 degree dry bulb temperature is not a problem, but if the wet bulb temperature reaches 35 degree, that becomes a real issue. And guys, because of humidity, if just think about it, why the wet bulb temperature will increase? It will increase because of two reasons. If the dry bulb temperature is already high, suppose if the weather is already very hot, then it is of course going to have a high wet bulb temperature also. But if the weather is hot and humid plus humid, if humidity and temperature both of them are high, then the wet bulb temperature is likely to increase. Just think about it. If this cotton wick vaporizes and makes the temperature of this particular thermometer drop, that means the cotton is going to dry up and the temperature will drop. But if the air around this cotton wick is already very humid, if the air is already very humid, then how will this cotton wick lose its water? The water vapor will not be absorbed by the air is already humid. That means the water vapor will not be evaporated, and if the water vapor is not evaporated, there will be no drop in temperature, and if the surrounding temperature is already high, there will be a high dry bulb temperature also. So if the dry bulb temperature is already high, along with that there is high humidity also, the wet bulb temperature is likely to increase. And guys, just if any one of you is taking the class right now from North India, where it is not raining much, but there is rampant humidity and high temperature, the wet bulb temperature is very high. You must have come across to a lot of articles that why does it, like nowadays in the weather app of our mobile phones, we have got one temperature where it says what is the temperature of your area, and then it says feels like temperature. What is the real feel of the temperature? Like if right now also I search, if right now also I just look at what is the temperature, I'll just show it to you. It says the temperature is around 30 degrees Celsius, but it feels like 35. Look at this. I hope it is visible. 30 degree it says, and it says feels like 35. For Delhi it says feels like 35. That means the average temperature is less, but it feels like 35. So just imagine, this feels like temperature means the temperature that your body feels, the impact of that temperature on your body, how your body is feeling in that particular temperature. That's called the real feel temperature or the feels like temperature. This is heavily influenced by the humidity. Basically it changes. In the winters, if there is a cold wave going on, then the temperature may be higher, but because of the cold wave it will feel like much cooler. In the summers, because of humidity or heat wave, at the same time it will be feeling like much higher. So this is where it becomes a challenge. There are a lot of articles already which says that Delhi's temperature was 40 degrees, but it felt like 50 degrees. It was there just a few days ago. So how it is happening? It is basically, the reasons are, multiple reasons are there. One of the reason is high wet bulb temperature. The reasons are multiple, remember. One of the reason is high wet bulb temperature. I hope all of you guys are able to understand. This is basically, right, the simple relationship between the feels like, the real temperature, the feels like temperature and the actual temperature. I believe all of you guys are able to understand. This is what we have under the simple concept of wet bulb and dry bulb temperature, right? So this is basically we mean by dry and wet bulb temperature. Anju Vivas, kindly double check on humidity, human body. Yes, exactly. So that's basically one of the reasons. And humidity in simple terms, see, Manu, humidity basically means the quantity of, or you can say the amount of water amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere at a given time, it's called humidity. Amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere is basically called humidity. Of course, there are two different types of humidities, right? Relative, absolute humidity. You will be studying that in geography though. But humidity is basically the amount of water vapor that is present in the air or in the atmosphere at any given location at any given time. I hope you are able to understand this. So this is basically what we have under the simple concept of dry and wet bulb temperature. I hope all of you understood. So this is one of the major concerns. We also talked about this in the Magnum prelims crash course. So this time when the question came, it became somewhat easy. So guys, just think about it. Ab dekho, wet bulb pe question bhi aa chuka hai. And now you understand that if the wet bulb temperature increases, of course, the temperature that we will be feeling like would also increase. And that will of course have a lot of impact on the human body. So of course, when you're sitting inside the AC room, you may not have that problem. But imagine if you're outside and the wet bulb temperature is high, you can just imagine that you'll be losing a lot of water. Your body would be dehydrating, considering that the water vapor will evaporate and eventually your body will start feeling cooler. But because the body will not feel cooler, you will keep dehydrating. Excessive dehydration can cause, fatigue, can cause organ failure in worst cases. And guys, this is where you have to understand that wearing light clothes, ventilated clothes becomes very important. And guys, this does not just call for changing your lifestyle. This also calls for changing everything around us. Even the buildings that are constructed, they have to be constructed so that they are nicely ventilated. Just look at the conditions of many houses in our urban areas. Poor ventilation, the houses are in very poor condition. So that involves not just the change in your personal lifestyle, but the change in the entire planning and developmental process of the cities. I hope you are able to understand. Air ventilation becomes a very important part in keeping the ambient wet bulb temperature. I hope all of you understand this, right? So this is one way to understand this. Now, when you talk about the impact of high wet bulb temperature, this is also being covered previously as well. So on the human health, you have already understood. It is not just on the human, but also on animals, on almost livestock also. The other animals will also have the same impact. Mammals, not just humans, but other mammals also, cows, buffaloes, sheep, goat, all of them will also have the same impact where they will undergo severe dehydration. In fact, it has been found, there has been a report which suggests that with every increase in the wet bulb temperature, the productivity of the cow and buffalo's milk production also decreases. It has been found to decrease, right? So there is, I'll talk about this impact of climate change on livestock separately also. So here you just remember that not just the human productivity increases, but also the productivity of livestock also decreases, right? Productivity of both humans and livestock decreases. And guys, what will be the impact on agriculture? So guys, on agriculture, the wet bulb temperature has been found to be both a mix of benefit and disadvantage. How it can be beneficial? See, in terms of for plants, they lose water. There is a process called transpiration. Like we undergo sweating, we call it perspiration, that our sweat pores loses some water, and as the air, as the water vaporizes by absorbing our heat, we feel cooler. Plants undergo another process called transpiration, where on the plant leaf there is some openings. We call them stomata, and these stomata openings, there are some pores. We'll talk about stomata more in detail when we discuss biology. So stomata are basically tiny pores on the leaf of the plant, and these tiny pores, these stomata, this basically we call it stomata, and through stomata water evaporates by a process called transpiration, right? So transpiration is a kind of a loss for plants. So when the stomata opens up, stomata actually opens to absorb CO2 and release oxygen for photosynthesis. But in the opening of the stomata, when the plant absorbs CO2 and release oxygen, it also loses water. Now water is very essential for plants to for photosynthesis. Water is needed by the plants, but in the process of opening of the stomata, it loses some water, and that loss of water is called transpiration. Now what has been found, if the wet bulb temperature is high, the transpiratory loss of water is low. So somehow it benefits the plants. So plants who are likely to go dry because of transpiratory loss of water, because of high wet bulb temperature, in agriculture, transpiratory loss decreases. Transpiratory loss of water decreases. Don't worry guys, if you do not know what is transpiratory loss of water, don't worry, we will be talking about this in detail. Here you can just write down transpiratory loss decreases. The transpiratory loss of water decreases. I believe all of you guys are able to understand, right? So it is likely to consider that high wet bulb temperature can be beneficial for some plants. Some plants can be benefited, right? But not all the plants, right? The plants which have naturally adapted to survive in dry conditions, they may not have any harm if the wet bulb temperature also increases. Manu, what is the difference between climate change and global warming? So climate change is change in the long-term weather conditions. The current climate change is characterized with global warming. So climate change could be cooling also, could be warming also, but currently the climate change that is ongoing, it is characterized with global warming. So we consider that the current pattern of climate change is characterized with global warming. The average temperature is increasing with time. It is making the planet Earth warmer. That's basically the idea. Okay, so our climate change is mostly warming up. I hope you understand. That's why the word global warming. So guys, when you talk about economic impact, when you talk about the economic impact of wet bulb temperature, I was hoping UPSC should ask the question on this as well. Even in the mains, a question can be asked on economic impact of high wet bulb temperature. So one can easily understand the human health productivity will decrease, livestock productivity will decrease. So one can consider if the human productivity decreases, you can understand it will be having a higher expenditure on health, higher expenditure on air conditioners would be required to keep the human in the right productivity. Don't you think so? For livestock, again, higher expenditure would be required. It will increase food inflation, especially milk prices or dairy products. They will become more expensive. I hope you understand, because the productivity of the livestock will decrease, and on top of that, higher expenditure in maintenance of the livestock, because now they will also become more prone. Guys, you understand high humidity and temperature also supports more conditions, or also supports conditions to conditions for bacteria and viruses to grow. So with higher wet bulb temperature, there will be an increase in microscopic or increase in microorganism breeding, increase in their diseases, increase in diseases. Then on top of that, it will also cause increase in diseases. Then on top of that, healthcare budget will also increase. But on top of that, when there is more breeding of microorganism, more diseases, more rotting of stored food. Don't you think so? Stored food will also get rotten. That means the food storage cost will also increase. Are you guys able to understand? The food storage cost will also increase. So food inflation will also increase. The economic impact of wet bulb temperature. Guys, this is where you have to interrelate with one ecology event with economy. I hope all of you understand. So a lot of these things will increase. So this is just a brief introduction of wet bulb temperature. We will be talking about this further when we talk about impacts of global warming. A lot of more discussion will happen, right? So this is basically the impact of high wet bulb temperature on human health, on agriculture, on livestock, and this is the economic impact. I believe all of you guys are able to understand. It's already 9:30 right now. I will be talking about climate change. Tomorrow when we meet, we'll talk about greenhouse gases, greenhouse effect, how does it work, and we'll try to relate it with the current developments, current news that is coming up. So tomorrow's class will be able to cover up the things. My objective is to cover up till the individual sources of gases and global warming potential I want to finish in tomorrow's class, right? So up till carbon footprint we should be able to finish in tomorrow's class. So guys, this completes my first lecture for environment. I hope all of you guys have been able to understand the things. If any questions you have right now, please ask. Please ask if there is any question. It's already 9:30, so I will not be taking the new topic. If any questions you have from the class, please ask. Anything to ask. No, in general we take dry bulb temperature. The general temperature dry bulb actually, see, wet bulb temperature we don't measure actually. हम measure नहीं करते हैं. We basically wet bulb temperature, मतलब we can measure, of course. It's not like we are not measuring it, but in general the temperature that you see is the dry bulb temperature. Like it says 30 degree in Delhi, it is the dry bulb temperature of Delhi. But when you look at the feels like temperature, the real feel of the temperature, that is where wet bulb temperature is one of the component. One of the component for that feels like temperature is wet bulb temperature. I hope you understand this, right? So if it is, suppose if it is 30 degrees, but it is airy, suppose it is windy, and it says 30 degrees but windy, but because it is windy, the wet bulb temperature will be lower and the feels like temperature will decrease. I hope Mani you are able to understand, because hawa chal rahi hai tez, so if it is very windy, the wet bulb you will start feeling comfortable, right? I hope you understand this, right? Because so even if it is humid, but if it is windy, you will not feel that humidity because the water vapor will still vaporize, right? I hope you are able to understand. Humidity act as one of the indicators. See, Ishan, just now I hope you have understood. So is wet bulb used as a humidity indicator? See, it can be one of the indicators for humidity. If the humidity is high, the wet bulb temperature is naturally going to be high. But like I just now mentioned, if the weather is windy, even if it is humid, but if it is windy, the feels like temperature will decrease. I hope you are able to understand, Ishan, right? So this is basically, kindly share basics of wet, humidity, sweating and human body relationship. So I'll talk about it, but actually perspiration and these things so Anji, this topic I'll talk about when I'll discuss the impacts of global warming, because this is likely to be covered there itself. So there's a separate topic of impacts of global warming. I will be talking about all the impacts of global warming on the human body, on various animals, on diseases and all these things. We'll talk about that there itself, right? So guys, I hope all of you understood everything that we covered. Any other question that you have? Again, let me take one more announcement. From Monday onwards, the class will be in a two-way interactive session. It will be conducted on Zoom, where the classes will be two-way interaction. I will be able to see you guys. You will be able to see me. You can keep your cameras on and I can point out specifically on a real-time basis to ask, where you can answer questions. You can answer my questions. I will be able to answer more questions in a more interactive way, right? I believe all of you guys are able to understand. Wet bulb temperature is impact of changing weather phenomena. Yes, this is one of the impacts. See, remember, it is one of the parameters. It is not the only parameter. Let's say, for example, like just now I mentioned, it depends on various other factors, right? So various other factors will also be there. I think, Anurag, the lecture plan is already uploaded on the Telegram channel of PMF IAS. On PMF IAS Telegram already has the lecture plan. But once the WhatsApp group will also be made, all these data I'll be uploading right away, right? All these things I'll be, or the other admin in the group, they will be uploading it, okay? But it is already there on the PMF IAS. You guys should definitely join the PMF IAS Telegram group because they share a lot of valuable content, and their content is already highly valued in the overall fraternity. They all have delivered enough good content for prelims, mains, their study material, their current affairs, in fact their questions writing practice, whatever they provide, it is perfectly in line, in sync with the UPSC patterns, right? So you should otherwise also join the PMF IAS Telegram group. It will be highly helpful for all of you, right? So guys, this is everything for today. Tomorrow we'll be meeting again at 7:30, and guys, although I'm finishing the class at 9:30 itself, but come prepared that the class sometimes may extend by up to 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes extension ho sakta hai sometimes, depending on the topic. If the topic is still going on, I may not, take it to the next class. I may finish it in that class itself, right? So guys, this is everything for today. I'll be meeting tomorrow, and with both your courses, science and environment, you can score. See, this time, if you look at the weightage of the questions, I had more than 35 questions from my own subject. More than 35 questions came from just my subject, environment and science included. So this time 70 marks, could have been earned only from science and environment. But guys, it is not like, I also personally don't recommend that you should only give weightage to one subject. There is an equal importance of all the other subjects, baki subjects. In fact, I would say that some subjects have greater importance, because when it comes to answer writing, those subjects have a bigger impact in UPSC overall answer writing patterns. Science and environment will end up like dimensions to those subjects, because there is a more number of questions are there. History, geography, polity, economy, these are again very important subjects. My subjects are very much important in the prelims. Prelims you cannot even imagine to qualify without science and environment, but mains can still be handled. Mains फिर भी handle किया जा सकता है. If you have just been reading current affairs and also you are well aware about the major environmental and scientific issues of the country, then you can still handle. This is something very honestly I'm saying, that prelims would be difficult. Prelims would not be possible to qualify without, if you ignore the two subjects of science and environment. This time 19 questions were there from science, highest weightage of science. 19 questions came. So just imagine guys, you can't afford to skip these two topics. So that is basically the weightage. And my objective is always that we should be able to do at least 80% of the questions from the things that we are delivering. So whatever things I deliver alongside with the institution, we should be in a position to do more than 80% of the questions. So if 35 questions came and suppose we were able to handle 28 of them, it would have been a very good job, right? Doing 80% of the question. It would have been a fantastic job by the teacher, by the institution, and also by the students, right? If 28 questions can be dealt with that. So that is always my objective, that 80% mark हमें touch करना है, right? I hope all of you are able to understand. So this is guys everything for today. I'll be meeting you tomorrow 7:30, and I expect to see all of you guys tomorrow morning, and tomorrow sharply we'll start at 7:30. All right, all the best. Thank you guys.